The U.S.A.'s national debt legacy. Who's going to pay the national debt? A 13-year-old kid asked this question. What is the government going to do about paying down the huge national debt? And what happens if investors stop buying all our debts? I'm really worried about the national debt, said the kid. Our country owes over $10 trillion and it's growing every day. Trillions of dollars. I'm just 13 years old, and I know I'm going to be part of the millions of people who are going to be paying for this debt if we ever pay it off, which seems kind of impossible. I want to know how the government plans to help us solve this huge problem. Your generation has inherited this huge debt that has been generated by all the generations before. If you haven't already, maybe you should sit your parents down and have a little talk with them about it. The U.S. national debt as of November 13th, 2008 is over $10.5 trillion and growing every day, and growing by approximately $3.8 billion every single day. Approximately $6.2 trillion of that debt is from U.S. Treasury bonds sold to a variety of investors, including numerous foreign governments like China, Saudi Arabia, Asia, many countries. Another $4.3 trillion is held by our own government, mostly in the Social Security and Medicare Trust Fund. These funds have been collecting more than they spend, but that's changing, or has changed. Saving for the day when my generation retires and starts collecting retirement checks and needs health coverage to pay our doctor bills and buy medicine, and over 80 million baby boomers have now started to retire. Those savings could have been stashed or put in a bank account to earn interest or usury, but the Treasury, U.S. Treasury, needs the money to make up for the years the government spent more money than it collected in taxes. The federal government has been spending more money than it takes in or makes. And that's bad, and that's not sustainable at all. Of course, voters or people like to see cuts in taxes, not in services. Though $10 trillion looks like a big number, keep in mind that the U.S. economy is generating about $13 trillion every year, which means the debt is about 80% of GDP. That's way too high. If our government could only figure out how to set taxes and spending at the same level. They've been trying for a long time, and time's running out rapidly. And the economy would just keep growing. The debt would get smaller in relation to the economy. But that's not happening, and especially now, it's getting worse every day. And there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. Anyway, if that could happen, the burden on your generation wouldn't be so bad. If it could only keep getting better. But because of everything that's been done before, or everything that the generations before have done or haven't done, It's not going to work out that way. Doesn't look like it. The only way to do that is to raise taxes or cut services or both. And that doesn't even look like that's going to happen anytime soon. Can't raise taxes and nobody wants their services cut. And, well, greed is part of this picture too. Pure greed, huh? The government isn't alone in borrowing too much money either. American consumers have borrowed $11.5 trillion in mortgages and another $2.5 trillion in credit card, car loans, and other assorted debts. Banks and Wall Street investment firms have also borrowed tens of trillions of dollars more to create complex investments that now are worth a lot less than anyone thought. That was based on greed, too, wasn't it? And now the Treasury and the Federal Reserve are using trillions of dollars more, just trillions more, to try to clean up the mess. As they do, the debt pile will grow even larger. Of course, someday, that will have to be paid back too. Even to add to all that, on top of that, even when all that debt is paid off, your generation will likely face another huge debt problem. Remember the money that the government has set aside for Social Security and Medicare benefits? It's not going to be nearly enough to pay the bills for those of us who will be relying on Social Security to pay for retirement and on Medicare to take care of us when we get old and sick. There are just going to be way too many. There are various estimates out there. The government's own accountants at the GAO, on the low side, figure it will take at least another $40 trillion, 40 plus trillion dollars more. And earlier this year, Richard Fisher, the president of the Dallas Federal Reserve, gave a speech in which he had figured that Social Security will need at least another $13.6 trillion to cover retirement checks to people like me in a few years to come. And Medicare will need something like $85.6 trillion to pay our medical bills in the coming few years. Where are they going to get that kind of money when they don't have any money left? That's not a good sign. Borrowing money to enjoy a better life today has until very recently become ingrained in the American psyche or culture or way of life. And as we're now finding out the hard way, it's not sustainable. Again, it is not sustainable. And when the bills come due, as they're beginning to now, life can get much tougher, much rougher. As for what's being done to fix this mess, there is no answer, or there's no good answer. These problems have been known for quite a while, some time. And our federal government, or our government, has spent years debating what to do about it. Of course, so far, it hasn't come up with a solution at all. Nothing. And if nothing is done soon, it will be the greatest failure of all time. And you'll have every right to be extremely angry about it. People should be. What about the kids? What about their children? What kind of world or life or nation are we leaving to them? What are they going to inherit? A world of so many problems like global warming, climate change, the glaciers melting, or a new ice age starting because of the global warming? Pirates everywhere, war everywhere, nukes everywhere. Then they're going to have on top of that, they're going to have a huge national debt that's just trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of more dollars. Where there's no jobs. That's not going to work. No, not at all. What's the impact to me if investors and others stop buying U.S. debt? Cuts in service, government layoffs, a bankrupt nation? That's possible too. No, these are not normal times, and real change has to come. And these are more signs, and there are many, just a whole lot of signs.